Today we answer the age-old question. Is hot dog soup, is the multi-rised bounty hunter a warband? Hey guys, it's Ryan, and this week it's a section that I cut from my warband video. What makes a warband and how to judge it, and we're doing it in the form of a lawful chaotic good evil graph, so prepare to add it to your tier list because we're gonna make some bullshit claims today. If you like the sound of that and you want to see my video on something actually useful like the previous October updates, please like and subscribe for more. I promise better videos are coming. Let's talk about the metric in which warbands will be judged, and it's a 2-axis graph because sometimes a hot dog is some form of soup or sandwich. Anyway, if you watch my last warband video, link here, you know that warbands want to do 3 things: advance up the board, delay your opponent, and then deny your opponent's orders or objectives. This isn't a universal truth, to be honest, but it is about 90% of what all warbands and warbands shaped things do, and it's that last bit this video is based around. I missed it in my last script, but really anything is a warband if you try hard enough, and this section now has its own video to emphasize that. It's even one of the graph's axes, with the other being unit role. So let's start with that upper left, and in that we have what we consider the ideal traditional warband. Something you look at and go, yes, this is a warband type and it is warband shaped. Down in the bottom right are the radical warbands, something that doesn't necessarily act or look like a warband but is still functionally warbandable. Expect the really weird stuff here. Now, what are we putting into this grid? So I'll largely be putting in those warbands and warband adjacent units, but I've picked a few from some sectorials to illustrate a point and be more radical style of warbanding. So to expect to see some Galwegians and the Greeks, but also expect to see Teutonics, as well as some wild stuff like motorized bounty hunters. I'll start with the obvious stuff that belongs on the top most leftist, and that are basically gimmies. So we'll start with true traditional warbands to ground ourselves to what a true warband is, and in my opinion that is the iconic stuff like Galwegians, Varangian, monks, jaguars, morlocks, Datarazzi, the dog. Like, this is all pretty solidly, yes, this is a warband, and yes, this is what warbands do. They have been in this game in this form since the first edition. This is a solidly traditional warband. They live and breathe to advance and wreak havoc with templates, melee, and grenades. They are iconic and stereotypical. Let's move to the right, which is not something I usually say, on the axis where these things are still warbands, but they are not entirely focused on doing warband things. Irmandinos are the icon of this section. They are specialists by the ways of engineers who can use their time to repair and recuperate units in TAC and Cosmoflot like the Chernobog and Cosmosoldat. Wallace and Myrmidon officers can also sit here, as they can opt to lead rather than immediately advance. To be honest, a lot of the Myrmidon sit here, particularly the hacker profile and Machaon, as he may opt to do doctoring things. In a similar vein, again, the Yamabushi paramedic, who, yes, is a warband, not a skirmisher, can go do objectives or heal something up on the way to do so. Alternatively, he can sit right back and play the shell game, which is not very warbandy and almost the last slot in this role. Finally, we have traditional warbands' radical roles. So warbands that do nothing related to warbanding but are basically barely even warbands. The main face here is Phoenix. He is warband typed, but he is min -6 with smoke and very good CC, but he has a heavy rocket launcher and no frenzy nor impetuous. Unlike Kaduros, I don't think he should go to heavy infantry or medium infantry because he is a warband, but he's not really doing warbanding stuff, which is odd but allowed. You could heavily argue that the Myrmidon hacker belongs here, as does Machaon, but generally they may still advance with a different fire team. I know in N4 you could do Phoenix, Machaon, 2 Myrmidons, or some other combination of the lads or whatever, but generally I think Phoenix and maybe Myrmidon hackers in some plans might be more considered radical warbands, which sounds really cool. So now we have our vibes on how the x-axis is categorized, so let's move down our y-axis to those that are doing very typical warband things, but are only slightly not shaped like warbands. in regards to types. So for this section, we're looking at the light infantry, the medium infantry, and heavy infantry, and somewhat skirmishers, although that bridges between this one and the one below it, or the radical shaped units. Again, quite a funny, cool name. So what are the units that are typical to here? Well, most popular option is the warband heavy infantry, a very expensive but well-used archetype ranging from Hellblazers to Tankos and from Cenobites to Teutonic Knight. They are impetuous or frenzy, good at melee and close range loadouts, with maybe one SWC profile for spice to move up and club things to death. They are cheap for heavy infantry, hard to dig out besides hacking, and used to really mess up your opponent. Next up, I want to specifically start calling out units that are very warband shaped, and that is Shona, Valkyrie, and Gunna from Pano, 3 very melee and movement focused units that can advance and do a ton of warbandy damage to other units. Jingho in Yujing is also basically perfect for the role, so much so that she has Fireteam Master with Shaolin Monks. She could maybe move to the right for a lost traditional role, but I don't see why you wouldn't also want to slap her into something. Moving back to light infantry and to Haq Islam, it's very much the Mutawari, or the Mutts, you know what I mean, who I was tempted to also move into the right, but they are pretty much non-CC warbands, so they do the warbanding role, trading and delaying with the amazing jammer profiles with Dogged. It's very good and very warbandy. Corsan of the Gates also fit here, they literally look like warbands. I won't run through everything in the game, but Krakots as well. I'll never know why these two units aren't warband, but they are 100% warbands masquerading as light infantry. Finally, from Ariadna is Usha McNeil, a full-on pseudo-impersonator with frenzy, good melee skills, smoke and close-range guns. Sans infiltration, camo and shooting mods, she would be basically a very okay warband, but thanks to her skirmisher kit, she's one of the best non-warband warbands out there. Very non-traditional warband roles doing warband jobs. Okay, that was a long one, but now we get to the weirdest stuff doing the warband role, but not warband shape. So rems, tags, and other kinds of skirmishers. First off is very obviously the Day One. It's a rem that is a warband. It's a robot with a sword. It's perfect, no notes. The Beast Hunter is here as well, as they are a camo or non-camo skirmisher with decent CC templates and movement. Very warband shaped from the cover of Camo. Finally, I want to put a tag here as well, and I was mulling it over, and it could be more towards the center, but the Surf is a fairly good example of the warband tag, particularly with the Spitfire one. It's fast templates, Pano BS to fight and force favourable but not asymmetrical fights. It exists to advance, delay, and deny through murder, and when it hits melee with potentially burst 2 or 3 with its explosive CCW, it will do that job. It's weak to hacking, sure, but who's going to stop an angry tag beyond that? Next, we move into the nebulously defined as true neutral warband units. Units that aren't warband typed and don't really do warband stuff, but are doing warband jobs. This is where units with good ways to utilize close range weapons like rifles, SMGs and shotguns, maybe even with some hacking to advance, deny and delay the enemy. Patchers, Berturk, and Orcs and Knights with shotguns are this category's icon. If you have a shotgun +1 burst and can present a pain to your opponent, then this is where you belong. Units like the Escort Sergeant Combi Rifle and Zonautica also belong here for similar reasons. Actually, a lot of the RTF troopers who can handle close quarters but are light infantry and medium infantry also belong here, like the Nahab, the Nafin, and the Namur. Also, those generally that act as some form of fireteam bodyguard are in this spot. Their job is to escort and then go hot in a single moment. For me, a Knight of Santiago is the pinnacle of this. He does a bit of hacking, but when the chips are down, he becomes the main character for a bit. Generally, any Knight or heavy infantry who can melee, but does something else like the new Swelle profiles on the Hisen or Crane, own this category. Radical type neutral role is something similar, but for units that are more varied, so bulleteers, heavy shotguns, peacemakers, lunkholds, moonrakers, anything with a peripheral and a template kind of generally fits here. Vehicles and melee tags like the Guja, Anaconda or Blue Wolf also kind of fit in this area. These are things that you want to advance and do damage, but you also will probably withdraw fairly quickly. Radical role neutral type is one more of profiles rather than full units, and includes things like missile launchers, Teutonics and Tankos, the heavy rocket launcher, Shizoku, the Night Hospitaller Doctor, as well, mostly due to it being only frenzied. Units that really want to sit back more and do something else before advancing and getting stuck in, but are still very much capable of it, are very much what belongs here. That or token CC units that are range capable, such as Armand Limit. Finally, the true radical in both role and type looks nothing like a warband and barely does warband things, but is also committing to the warband bit. And in my opinion, that is any unit with close range capability, but probably won't use it unless you get a weird feeling in your gut that isn't the LGS's food. This includes Catarans, basically a skirmisher who is vaguely melee capable, but has a sniper and probably won't do much most of the game other than climbing and shooting. Ninja's in the same boat here. The platonic ideal is either one of those and maybe the Hollow Man missile launcher, who is fast and has a template, even if the main gun is more of a standoff piece, and he's generally considered pretty crap in CC. Hell, even a sensor bot works here quite well, a burst 3 gun, and can ignore many of the mods and the weaknesses of warbands. Not only that, it lets you set up hackers to do hacker things, so be aggressive, but not in a way that a warband might be. However, and this is where it gets fun, I want to make the maddest argument I've ever made on my channel, and I want to argue that the truest, most radical warband, again sounds so fucking cool, is in fact the total reaction bot. Why? Well, it's radical in role in that it doesn't want to advance, but it may still deny and delay, much like most ARO PCs, but it doesn't really want to get close at all. But I'd argue more like Phoenix or a Swiss Guard with its light shotgun, it is capable of doing it and possibly should. Why? Well, it's 3 or 4 dice with a Thunderbolt, HMG or even Plasma Rifle in Combined Army, can do a lot of damage when throwing that burst out. Now it's BS11, so it might need a pal to clear out the ARO pieces up the board and try it so that it can then move up and catch things out of cover. From that, if you win the face-to-face roll, you might do a wound. A HMG is still damage 5. If not, and you don't die from being armed 0 in cover, armed 0 plus cover, you might have set yourself up to delay the shit out of whatever your target and whatever is behind you thanks to 360-degree visor. This play may only hamper newer players, but it certainly is a play of all time. Now, I'm thinking this through. The CA Plasma Rifle TR bot might be the best way to go about this, as it has both min-3 and templates with burst 3 and reaction. Like, I'm convincing myself that I kind of need to try this now. Just throw a TR bot up the board or start in the midfield in crossing lines and just have it control the area. They are shockingly fast on 6-4 move. And yeah, it dies to hackers, warbands, other bots, being shot, jammers, tags, hackers again for good measure. But it could do most of the warband job, which everything on this table can. So therefore, the most radical warband is in fact a total reaction bot. Combine Army players, can you try this one out for me and let me know how that goes? So that was a fairly light-hearted video on is the Morlock the same as chicken noodle soup, and also a bit of a Top Gear ending. Hopefully you enjoyed it. This is being reached in post out of production armies coming and pre next wave, so my next video will be post both and we'll cover the entire month of October's updates, because it sounds like a lot is coming. Unless Corvus Belli pushes parts of it back, then in that case it will just cover whatever Corvus Belli did release. Anyway, remember to like and subscribe for more, and as always, thank you so much for watching.